Hello, ladies and gentles. This is a Harry Potter commission, and the brief was to connect and have a story of the old guys, the James, Sirius, Peter, and Remus, and the new class of Hermione, Ron, and Harry, connected together and make a narrative painting all about these guys. And what connects them the most? It's the Marauders map. Let's see how we go. So I started off with painting the map. The Marauders map is the thing that connects these guys all together. This map is a big part of the film, big part of the book. It connects the past to the future, and it's a really good way of connecting all these characters in one. So I decided to make the background of this painting the map. That's easier said than done. First off, this map I tried to design in my pop style. That really didn't work because that was too blocky and it didn't quite look right. So actually what was easiest is what I'm doing there, just taking some spray paint and just blocking the nozzle a bit and just getting these blobs and splats. It gives a sort of aged look. Then I drew out the roughness of the map in pencil, and then there was no way on earth I was going to paint this with a paintbrush. So I went and bought all the Poscas in the right shade, and we used a Posca. I think it's dark brown, the one I used in the end. The whole map is just full of these, like, I don't know, it's writing. Every wall is made of writing, but it's not obviously English. It's some type of mythical writing. Sort of looks a bit like hieroglyph. I can't say it, that word. But I didn't want to make it look too old English, but I really didn't want to make it look elvish, which was the danger there. So every wall is actually made up of like these shapes, these squares, these twirls, these old English-esque writing, and then here and there you've got the characters that are more recognizable, the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, what have you. It was way more complicated than I ever thought this was going to be, this map. It took a long time, and I'm so happy I went for the Posca. And the age look, say, there you go, across the top, that's just English words, but it's just gobbledygook. And then see there we've got like a scripture, and that again is just gobbledygook. But it was really good fun to do, and it did give me a claw hand. There's not a lot to say about this map. It went really well. This here is Juliet. This is the people who commissioned this. That's their daughter. So they wanted her on the map. So I thought it'd be quite cool to put her with the little, what do you call it? The banner with her name on and some footsteps. And here we're drawing the castle, which is, if you see the map, it's folded out. So you've got these fold lines which disconnects each bit, which is really cool how they open it up. And that was cool to do. This castle came out really well, but we actually paint over most of this castle, which was a bit of a dilemma for the painting, but I'll get onto that later on. It looks wicked. Because the map is sort of bitty, it was quite good to make it look old. Was to use this spray paint, and then you can see I've used fingerprints all over it to make it look a bit older, and then I went over a lot of the Posca with a razor, quite a hard one, which took off sort of the top of the ink where the texture was on the canvas, and that really, scuffed it up nicely. Now, of course, there was a lot of characters that want to go into this. You've got James, you've got, as a stag, you've got Sirius the dog, Peter the rat, Remus the werewolf, then we had Harry, Ron, and Hermione. And the way I thought to get around this was, one, to have Harry big. He's the main boy, so that's what I've got him over in the corner looking over, and I'll come back to how I'm painting him in a minute. And then I decided the rest of the guys to have this sort of, not like a battle, but this scene of them coming over the hill behind Harry, which we'll get to when we get to that bit. Now, this painting, interestingly, every tone in this is made up of raw sienna, unbleached titanium, raw umber, white titanium, carbon black, and ultramarine. Every single colour, I'll show you, here you go, here's the thing where I mix them. It's just made up of those ones. And it's really interesting, this experiment in mixing up and down to keep everything in the same colour palette, the same tonal range. You cannot put loads and loads and loads and loads of tones and loads of colours into painting. For me, it looks ridiculous. You've got to have a limited palette, and the palette was governed or designated by the colour of the mat, this sort of old tea-stained look. So let's talk about Harry. What can we say about him? I don't know really. He's not too difficult to paint. He's got a very easy face to paint, and of course, because it's Harry Potter, you've got the glasses to fall back on, which is always nice. I wanted him to look kind of badass, because I didn't want to have the young Harry. The young Harry is a bit ridiculous looking, isn't it? And I wanted this to be the connection between the old and new, so I felt like having Harry older connects him better to James, because by that point he has learned more about his history and his past. So that's why this is not young Harry with Hedwig on his shoulder and a scarf. All acrylic paint. Oh, and here you go. This is the only bit that breaks the rule of the color palette. I used a little bit of red for that sort of, what's it called, sort of a blood red, sort of a wine red, the Gryffindor red on Harry's collar. And then I put a bit on the lips there as well, but I changed that later on because it looks a wee bit wrong. Now this hair, oh my god. I'm not sure how many times I repainted Harry's hair here. A lot is the answer, and we'll see why in a minute. What can I talk about? Oh, the brush. These are, what am I using here? Liquitex brushes. These are Liquitex, what do they call them? Easy brush? Rapid brush? They're all right. They're very expensive for what they do. Oh, here we go. Right, so the first attempt of the hair was this is what I was meaning about tonal range. I took the range of this tone different to the rest of his face up there on the hair, and it didn't look right. You see how that hair is following the same color but not the same tonal range, and it doesn't really work. It looks way too red, it looks too creamy, doesn't work. So then I went back in with a version of, I think this is raw sienna, with a bit more yellow in it, thinking that would work. It definitely works better, that's for sure. And then I've taken this raw sienna, probably mixed with unbleached titanium, to bring the tone down, and it works. But he looks ginger, and he looks a bit like Ron. So then I went back over, Posca, this is wrong, let's do this again. I painted this hair so many times. And then I'm going in straight in with raw umber. This would be, I think, raw umber. Yes, raw umber. Which is on the same tonal range as what I've done the face, but it's a tone down opposed to going up. So do I leave it like this? I can't remember. It looks much better. I'm not sure about that brown there. That doesn't quite work. Too white. I'm pretty sure I changed that again. And also the hair was getting a bit bitty there. Too many strands for a painting that actually is like powerful and poppy. You don't need too much detail when it comes to hair because it kind of takes over everything else. There you saw a little glance of Harry's lips. They are pink at this moment, and I changed that later on because it doesn't work. His hair's looking better. I'm outlining everything, figuring out where the glasses are. When you've got this background, I think because I spent so much time over this map, I was trying to conserve a lot of it, which was silly of me. And once I'd been doing this for a couple of days, I was like, we don't need to conserve it. His glasses, they are looking fine at the moment. I'm limiting again the tonal range here, keeping the greys, and trying to get the eye glistening. It's not really there at the moment, but it will be. What else can we talk about? I'm going to say I'm a lot, haven't I? Because this is a long video. It was a long ass painting. Oh, here we go. We were going back in with the raw umber and taking out a lot of that. So it looks like I've kept this tonal range. It's like I can't remember what I did. I can't remember what I did. It's a long time ago I painted this one. The hair's looking much, much better, isn't it? Yeah, okay. As you can see now, he doesn't look ginger. It's not a different tonal range. It's perfect. Well, it's not perfect, but it's damn good. Okay, so then what I'm doing here is I'm getting Harry to the point of knee fully rendered, and then we're going to move on to the rest of the painting, and then I'll come back to Harry's face to get it all to balance, because you can't balance something without the rest. At the moment, all we've got is the Marauders map. Marauders map? That sounded wrong then. Marauders map? Yeah. I don't know why it sounded wrong. I can't balance it with stuff that's not there. So I'm finishing off the rendering. Okay. Now, this was my way of getting all these characters in there, to have this battle scene of them walking over this hill in the background with the map on the back. The map as the background with the hill in the foreground. And I wanted them to appear like they were part of the same painting as Harry, but at the same time kind of like a movie poster, but not like that Star Wars movie poster where you've got all the heads in like an egg shape. Hermione, easy to paint because she's very, very recognisable as a silhouette. Her hair. Oh, and here's the tree. Let's go back to the tree. We'll come back to those guys in a minute. The Willow had to be there, and I discussed with the client of not putting the Willow there because we're going to lose all of the castle. And I was really precious over the castle at that point. And he came back and said, no, he's discussed it with friends and he thinks that the Willow should be there. And he was completely and utterly right. I was being precious because I loved how the castle looked, but the Willow is so important. The Willow is what connects the old to the new. It's their base. It's where they all go to hide out. It's where so much of the story happens. It's one of the most important pivotal parts. And having it that side where it's bigger balances it with Harry's face and balances the painting perfectly. I was wrong, and it should be there, and I'm happy it's there. Now the silhouette. Now we're doing Ron in the background. Ron, bit harder to make look like Ron in the silhouette because he's not super recognizable. He doesn't have a long hair, or that. There's something about Hermione's hair which makes it look Hermione. But I think that does look like Rupert Grint, just with a few bits of black and white, which I'm impressed with. Now, because this has gone over something so detailed, the Willow, I had to go around it all in, I assume this is... Oh, this would have been the mix I did for the background of the map, which I think probably would have been just a bit of unbleached titanium with maybe a bit of raw umber in it. Not entirely sure. Because there's so much detail behind it, it was all getting very confused. So I have had to outline every single branch and leaf to make it pop back out. The Willow is different in a lot of films, isn't it? In Azkaban, it kind of has a different look to it does in the rest. I like the Azkaban look, that more cartoony look. Like it's... all the branches are really weak, but the trunk is really strong. So that's the sort of the look I went for. This, like it's going to whop you, a whopping Willow. So I wanted to whop you. I did toy with the idea of putting the car in it, but that had no relevance to the story we're telling. The story we're telling between these guys. Now we go on to Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs, and I did them as the animals. Why? Because I don't think. Maybe Sirius and Peter you could have done as a silhouette because of the hair and Peter's being short fat, but James was the issue. James wouldn't be noticeable as a silhouette so much because he really not in the story, in the books, in the films. So I painted them as their animals. And of course, James as the stag, as Prongs, looks very cool, and it gives it height. It gives more dynamicness to the painting because we changed the height. Then we've got Sirius as the black dog, and Wormtail. Lee said Wormtongue. Isn't that weird? As the rat. And then Remus of the werewolf. And you'll notice that I didn't use the werewolf and the black dog from the films. I don't really like how they made Lupin look as a werewolf, and I really didn't like how they made Sirius's dog look. They just looked a bit... I don't know what it was, a bit cartoony to me. So we've actually used real animals here. At one point I had the eyes and I've taken that out. Going back in, re-render them. I had to go around, just about to see the outside. Oh, that leg's wrong. Hopefully I sort that out. I definitely sort that out. And make them jump out a bit more. There was always an issue because the rat was going to be a lot smaller, so I thought putting him standing up would give him some height. And then we're going back in with all the Posca pens to start defining everything, refining everything. This really is just me adding the shadow, adding the detail with whites and blacks. I always work dark to light when I'm painting, but then the biggest darks and the biggest lights I leave to the very end. And he's looking very, very cool, isn't he? And you can see it really balancing nicely now. I love this painting. I can't go over how much I love this painting. And we've got this story working so well. And his glass, wow, they're good. So mess up. And you can really see the painting balancing now. Now, there was an issue here. I felt like the balance wasn't quite curvy enough. It was segmented. So I thought we'll bring this shadow that Harry's got all the way around and give it like a curve. That way his head is kind of framing the rest of them, looking over them, not menacingly, but this black was going to tie it together well. At the moment there's too much map. Again, I had to be not precious over this damn map because I was so happy with it. But here this was like probably 2 weeks later. So the love of the map was the love of the map, the injury to my hand. So we are adding more black, and slowly but surely I'm pushing this black across. There it is. You can see how it just needs a little bit at the top there. So I put this black in the top in a minute, I think. And it's all balancing really well, actually. Look at the tree, the guy. Oh, wow. And look how good that top of the map looks on the top left. That's quite really well. I'm just refining, adding some grass and trying to get it to balance properly. I had a few splats there Only a little bit on his hair around his jumper or whatever it is, tracksuit. And then here we go. Now I realise this is what it needs. It needs to just be brought up a little bit more to make the balance and the narrative structure work. I wanted you to read it from left to right, and this way you can kind of give it like a curve. You can't see what I'm doing with my hands, but think of like a wave, how a wave comes up, spins around and encapsulates you. And that was the idea here. It came up and encapsulates the painting. So Harry, Hermione and Ron on this side, James, Sirius, Peter, Wormtail that side. Oh, we're finished. And they're looking at them. They're looking at them. There's a really nice balance. I'm so happy with this paint. It's gone really, really well. It was great fun to do. And painting the map was just an absolute blast. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Please share it. Please like it. Please do whatever you want. It's been great fun. I shall see you in the next video. Bye.